next speaker is Lydia Montandon of Adams Research. She is here for a project. EU4ALL is a framework project. It's more about openness and the participation of disabled or people who are outside or have the risk to be outside of the educational system to come inside, and this way by opening more the environment of universities. So it's a very interesting project. It's very much related to accessibility of disabled to higher education. The project is almost finished, and just a few weeks ago we had stakeholders meeting in Leuven here about it, and I am very pleased to give you the floor again.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry for being late, but not be mindful of planes and trains. And thank you very much for having the opportunity here to present the EU4ALL project, of which I'm the coordinator. So those are the content of my presentation. First, a little overview of the EU4ALL, the goals and the objectives, the mission and the vision of the project, then the challenge, how to promote the innovation developed during the project. I look at the social innovation perspective is needed, and this leads us to the innovation strategy, and I will also try to orient it towards the open access, which is the scope of this conference. So EU4ALL is a 4-year-long project. It's now included 6 months of extension, so it's 4.5 years. It's 15 partners, and it's a budget about 10 million. And it's partially funded by the European Commission. So the goal is, well, we know that, we all agree that ICT supports education, but if technology is not appropriate, if it's not offered with enough support, it also contributes to the digital divide and to the educational divide. So the idea is to have a set of components to support lifelong learning targeting in higher education, in the institutions, and in focus it has a special attention on people with disabilities. We want to provide usable, extensible, flexible, open, standard-based, so that this is an open access, and we also provide content support and access services. So the idea is how to enable all students, including students with disabilities or with special needs, to access higher education studies. Of course, they should be able to do this in the sense that cognitively it's focused on all people able to reach the level of higher education, from enrollment to examination, because one thing is the content, but the other thing is already to reach even the website of the university where you want to enroll. If you have a disability, then it's not always easy. The target is, of course, the learners, the students, but also the teachers, the tutors, the administrative staff, the content providers, the learning designers, all the disability staff that is around that helps students to enroll and study at the university. And this is a picture with all the partners. There are technology providers, universities, 2 big distance learning universities, the one in Spain and the one in the UK. And of course the EADU, which groups of universities. And we have also included at the end of the project 2 smaller universities to see if this framework can be adopted by smaller universities than the 2 big open universities and UNED in Spain. So our vision is to support, our mission is to support lifelong educational and training organizations in providing accessible e-services to their students, including disabled students or aged students, and to their professionals. And our vision is to be the reference in technology enhancing accessible lifelong learning. So this is an overview of the technology that is offered. So it's a flexible, open, standard-based set of components and services that can easily be integrated with existing learning environment. So it's a layer on the top. You should not touch the existing environment. And those components have been developed in the project, but there could be more components, more services. We have also experimented with third-party tools, even open source party tools or closed party tools, closed tools. And we are running large-scale pilots in 4 environments. So in the 2 big universities, the Open University is using Moodle as a learning environment. The university in Spain, Distance Education University, is using Doppler. And then we have the Polytechnic University of Leuven in Portugal. They use also Moodle, but another version. And the Polytechnic University of Valencia, which is using Sakai. So we have different environments in which we have put the layer, and we are evaluating the results. But still, we are now having a challenge. We are offering technical innovation where social innovation is still needed. All those universities are probably those in the project, they are half ready, but most of the universities that are to adopt those components and this framework are they ready to offer accessible services. And this is why we have looked at other theories of the diffusion of innovation, for example, Rogers' theory, which identifies the drivers that influence adoption, like, for example, the characteristics of the innovation, if it's more technical innovation, organizational innovation, the context, the decision-making process, all those factors are very important for the diffusion of innovation. However, this theory is not predictive and it lacks of practical guidelines. So we have been studying how to find the early adopters, and we made a study on 35 universities trying to get a very global view of their readiness to adopt services, accessible services. So we have been able to classify them depending on their level of institutional accessibility practice, from low to ascending, and we have matched this to a social innovation phase. So where the level of accessibility is low, it means that there are unclear roles, a low awareness in the senior management, a weak legal framework, and here the social innovation phase is intervention, clearly. Here corresponds to the accessibility is not a priority. There are ad hoc solutions for ad hoc problems. It's mainly a single persons doing this work, and this is I think the more major quantity of universities are in this level. There is still a lot of intervention to do, but it's moving toward institutionalization. Legal framework becomes more and more present, and we go to the substantial category where there are clear responsibilities, the senior management is aware, they are trying to put in place systems, there are communities of practice. This is quite a priority, and also there are those legal requirements. So we are going toward institutionalization and professionalization. The last category is outstanding, so those universities, they have clear responsibilities, it is a high priority, they have even stakeholders involvement, and they can even have an evaluation of the implementation of the processes, and of course legal framework is a strong driver. So this allows us to define a strategy for the dissemination and exploitation of the EU4ALL results. We are now towards the end of the project. We need to see how we can promote those results and how they can be adopted by a bigger number of universities. And also we need to offer the right service in function of this level of accessibility preparedness. And this allows to see who would be your priority in the target group and diagnose the level of accessibility, prepare specific packages for the different levels, and also channel them through different media like communities of practice or direct presentations to the decision makers, etc. So our strategy consists in approaching first the most promising institutions. Like if we categorize, we have institutions with a higher number of students with disabilities. They feel the need to adopt technology or innovation that will help them offer services to those students. The second aspect is we want to start with institutions that are already offering online education because they already have a step in front to be able to offer those electronic services. And also in regions or countries where the norms and the legal framework is strong enough to push those universities to adopt those technologies. So our first priority would be with open and distance education institutions in general that combine both high numbers of students with disabilities and technological learning services. And the idea also they should be open to change, open to innovation, and already within the consortium, universities that are involved in the consortium, they work generally with those kind of universities. So what is the offer of the EU4ALL project or results? The service added value to support the enrollment of disabled students, providing recommendations, guidance, tools for students, also support the adaptation of content to make it accessible according to the user profile. So there is a component that gathers the user profiles, that talks with the content that is provided to the students, talk to the staff that is preparing this content, and allows a process where this content can be made accessible, and at least the student knows where things are accessible for his own needs. And of course, consultancy in technical and organizational development, which is what we have learned during this project. So we have a set of assets like the core software components and services, which are most of them open source, or at least they have an open interface. There are additional components that are not open source, but that could be linked to those core components if there is interest. Of course, there is recommendations for architecture and guidelines with practice, and those paid training and consultancy services. So the market is very big. There are, of course, different organizations that provide lifelong learning, but our idea is to focus on the higher education segment in the first term, the short term. And the proportion of disabled people corresponds to about 20% of the population. This is a very ample view of disability. It considers also illnesses, but still those people are not students. However, there is more and more presence of disabled students in the universities due to the legal framework. So there is this also political and social pressure on higher education institutions, which is not so strong in the, for example, corporate training. So our channels would be, of course, publication and websites, social networks and communities of practice, and probably the most impacting now would be direct contacts and customers for big organizations such as Atlas Origin. But let's focus now also on the social networks or communities of practice, because in the end, most of the components are open source and should be downloadable and accessible by everybody. So our idea is to now transform our website to a real community of practice, where it is possible to have a diagnosis on the level of accessibility, on the tools that are needed, those that can be implemented in the university, also some downloads, not only directly the components, but also demonstrations, videos that show how it works, because it's also a whole process to not only the technical team will install this, no, it's also to speak to all the different departments of the university, make them aware that there is a need. So also in this line there is consultancy. We have known now more how to approach, who to approach in the university to raise this awareness. And of course, we need this to be sustainable. This is why we need the feedback of the whole community. There are also places to be linked with where there are those open source components available, and we could also link to those websites or portals where those components could be available. We have also extended the functionalities of open source elements like the exe and the reload to be able to offer accessible components or content, and the idea is to have also available there those extensions, and these are results of the project. Of course, for the moment, we have those outcomes available on the website. These are all the studies that we have made, the methodologies, the market information, the socioeconomic and legal studies. And I'm here also to promote the forum where we exchange our impressions, and it's the first step to build this and to join this community. And that would be all from my side, so thank you for attention.